Welcome, Dennis.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I appreciate it.
I have a quick question for you before we begin.
Hit me.
Do you remember the first time that we met?
I do. I vividly do. It was at a Halloween party, right?
Yes, it was.
It was at a Halloween party probably 9 years ago.
Probably about 8.
9 years ago.
Close to 8, I would say.
We met at a Halloween party,
Mhm.
and we had a really good time. I remember that.
Do you remember any details about when we first met?
Yeah, I remember one of the things that I annoyingly bothered you about was showing you all kinds of magic tricks at the time. I remember like trying to show you a bunch of my new magic tricks,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you appreciated them as much back then as you do now, probably.
I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit about those
Hit me.
because I did appreciate them, but maybe not as much as you thought I did.
I think in my head, I expected people to appreciate them more than I did, just because I spent so much time trying to learn them,
Yes,
and I don't think people really appreciated that. But yeah, I do. I vividly remember trying to show you every couple minutes the magic tricks,
But you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
We met at a Halloween party.
Yep.
You came in. I was there before. I think, if I remember correctly, I think you were dressed up as the Phantom of the Opera.
I was, yeah.
I'm not sure what your wife was dressed as, but
it was like a Day of the Dead kind of outfit that she
okay.
had on with the skulls and stuff like that.
I do remember that.
Yep.
She came
Black
in.
and
You
white.
came in.
Mhm.
You both came in. Took over the place.
Yeah.
I was dressed as Officer Dangle from Reno 911. I remember my shorts were about yay high.
Yep, I remember that.
Maybe a little bit something showing,
Right,
through the pants, but I did,
Right.
we all came with our best fits, and
Yeah.
yes, you came in, said hi and everything. I was like, this looks like a cool dude, and I remember you came in and you had your cards.
Yeah.
And you did the tricks.
I was ready to go.
Yeah,
I was ready to go.
You did a trick for me,
Yeah.
and the trick worked.
Yeah.
I made sure, because I've seen those shows where they talk about like sleight of hand and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I did my best to try to catch the trick that you were doing.
Well,
and I couldn't get it.
I think the thing about magic that's that I really like and appreciate is, to the human mind, it's so easy to get tricked.
Yeah.
Like, we have no idea how easy it is.
Yes.
If you don't know what you're looking
Yeah.
for. It's very deceiving, where like misdirection and stuff like that. And
Yep.
I think that was one of the cool things, because when you actually learn what you're doing, most people would be like, what?
Yeah.
There's no way it's that easy. And it is. Your eyes aren't trained to follow those kinds of things. So to get the average person just doesn't know what to look for.
And learn you did.
Yeah.
Because you got me.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not because I'm good. It's just that easy.
Yeah.
It's just about magic,
Make you feel better about it.
Yeah. I'm not.
But I remember you did it, and I remember trying to catch you, and I couldn't catch you. And I remember being in shock and awe and be like, man, I can't believe he actually like got me with this trick.
Yeah.
And I remember the next thing that I thought in my head was, get this motherfucker away from me right now.
If he does that, what else does he do? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, I do not want to go through this again.
Yeah.
But as the party went on, like, you was such a cool dude, and fast forward 8 years later, you're probably one of my closest friends.
Yeah, that was sort of the start to our friendship right there. I mean, it was in a cloudy, not a cloudy, parties, Halloween parties, how it is. And then ever since then, we've become close, and I also consider you one of my best friends. But yeah, it's crazy that's how it all started with some magics.
This guy that bamboozled me.
Yeah. Now when I go to places and there's a deck of cards around me, everybody just says it. Don't get him started with the magic tricks or any of that stuff, because I
actually enjoy it. So
yeah, and it's fun. It's fun, but without practice, it becomes. It's not as easy. Yeah, I don't remember as much of the sleight of hands and just the manual dexterity that it takes to do a lot of the tricks. And I know very basic magic. It's not anything
It's more than I know, so
yeah.
So.
And it's cool. It's cool to learn. It's very interesting to learn. I remember when I was going through in YouTube, like probably everything else I've ever learned.
You can learn anything through YouTube. Everything that I'm doing for this podcast
through YouTube. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I think that's probably been one of the biggest contributors to. I don't know if it's, but one of the biggest contributors to human development as far as like people learning new traits and the amount of information that's on there. And there's always a little something or somebody that has some kind of video showing you. I mean, even like woodworking, that's how I learned through YouTube. It sounds crazy, but that's just the reality.
Even for me, it might sound super basic, but I learned how to change my own headlight off of YouTube.
Everything.
Yeah, and I know jack shit about fucking cars.
You don't need to, that's the thing. You don't need to know anything because there's always somebody really educated that knows how to present it in a way where everybody can understand it.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite thing about YouTube. You just go on there and you learn. And there's a bunch of people that are dedicated to teaching, especially now with, you know, in the world that we live in, with there's so much information going out and a lot of social media and stuff. There's just so many talented people that are out there, and they're like, you know, I'm going to take my passion and expand it out to sort of everybody else and teach them. And I think that's a huge thing, because that's woodworking. You know, you just Google anything, or YouTube anything, and somebody will be on there teaching you how to do it.
Literally. I've learned, well, my cousin helped me out with the two, but even like electric parts of like a home, like switching out your own like switch lights and stuff like
everything,
that, like all that stuff.
It's so easy. And there's tons of videos. You just kind of pick and choose whatever suits your style of learning, and you just go forward.
And for anybody listening out there, that's free promo for YouTube. YouTube, if you're listening, you know where to find us.
You know where to find us. That's exactly right.
But with that story that we shared, that brings me to welcome you to the My Favorite Parts podcast.
Thank you.
I'm your host, João da Silva. And this is my guest, Mr. Denis Gonzalez. You are the second person outside that I hit up to do this podcast with me. Because when I was thinking about people to do this stuff with me, first was my sister who did an episode with me yesterday. And you were the second person. And immediately when I hit you up, you said yes. And
of course.
Again, I want to thank you for being
Of course.
here with
me. It's a pleasure. I every time me, you, whether this is our first time ever talking in front of cameras and mics and stuff, but every time we talk, I always leave our conversations refreshed. I'm like, man, that's always feels
we have
good
conversations, and that's one of the reasons why I hit you up, because especially even now just talking, it feels like natural and stuff. This is my second time doing this on camera, your first time, and I feel like already we got a good flow going.
This is normal. That's sort of what we do. You know, we're not doing anything out of the ordinary.
And
we talk about anything.
Really.
Anything.
Yeah. But today we're going to talk about not just anything. Well, we can talk about anything, but we're going to talk about you. As I mentioned in the first episode, this podcast is meant to highlight people other than me. If you guys are worried about me, I have a blog that you can go on to that'll have some of my likes and my favorites. But I want to take the time to also highlight people in my life and also regular people. And today we're going to highlight you, Denis. How does it feel to have something be all about you?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel yet. I'll tell you probably at the end. But this mule is definitely helping.
Yes.
Everything a little easier, right?
Yesterday was wine. Today's the mule.
There we go.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite drinks.
Who knows what's going to be tomorrow?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Maybe some whiskey. Got to do some whiskey.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I will say you do make some of the best meals that I've had and stuff. And I think you've nailed it down to like a craft. Yeah.
But the thing is that I only order mule. Not only. I don't. If they have it, if any place has a mule, I tend to always order it. It's one of my all-time favorite drinks. And, you know, as you try different mules here and there, you always try to like find what's yours.
Yeah.
And I made it a purpose to like, you know, I'm going to perfect this. So I, you know, and it's not anything complicated, but it's something that I like it. So I always wanted to make it like perfect.
Yeah.
And I always got to have ginger beer, some kind of, I like the mezcal. Is what I like the most, but you always got to have some vodka or anything like that to make it. But it's one of my favorite drinks for sure.
It's true. And the way you talk about it, how like trying different ones to get to to get the one that you like.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar. But my drink is like the old fashioned.
Yeah.
And same thing. Like every bar that I go to, I'll order at least one old fashioned just to see how they make it.
Yeah.
Different. You'll get some that are really good. You'll get some that are really bad.
It's the same thing with the mule.
But
some places are really good.
Mm-hmm.
They make a banging mule, and then some places are like, man, that's so far off.
Yeah, but you learn what you like in it, and so with that, in this case, when you're making your own, you know what to do with it because
exactly.
You know,
and I'm very this is crazy, and I think this stems from when I was younger. With my mom, obviously, classic Cuban lady. When you ask her for advice for cooking or anything, she just says. You get a handful or a pinch. And I'm terrible with that because I don't know what that is. And I always like to make things as close to the way that she makes it as possible. So when she says a pinch, I never get it. So I'm very precise about like measurements because I know that if I get the right measurement, I can always make it the same.
Yeah.
So that's consistency. Yeah. So all my mules, I try to make them so I have like a little measurement of like how much ginger beer to ice or whatever. And I've been paranoid because my mom used to always tell me that like, a pinch, and I was like, "What is a pinch? What does that mean? What do you mean?
Do I actually pinch it?"
Yeah, like we would FaceTime and I would grab a pinch and just show it on the camera and be like, "Yeah, that's enough." And that kind of stemmed from that, where like I hate that feeling of uncertainty of not knowing how much she means. Yeah. So now I'm like very meticulous about like measurements. So I try to like measure out my mule, this amount of vodka or mezcal or whatever it is to this amount of ginger. Beer.
Yeah, I always have an admiration for people that can just do things by memory. Oh, like, man, isn't that good? Like, I cook, I cook and stuff.
Delicious, by the way.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Very good. Yeah, one of the best.
I do appreciate that, and it's like I enjoy cooking and stuff. But one of the most basic things that I should know by heart is rice. Yeah. And I can't stand the fact, like I have to measure my rice. I have to measure this and that just to make sure I get it right. When my mom can sit there, put a whole bunch of rice into a pot, put water, and just know that it's right. And it comes out even better than the way that I make it.
I agree, man.
It makes me furious.
I agree. I always say this, one of my all-time favorite meals is my mom's chicken and rice and fricassee. And she always tells me, do this. But when she comes over here, I'm like, that's not what you told me. She does it completely different because she just knows all the little, she'll just throw in this and that. And all of a sudden, and just like you say, it tastes so much better. Yeah. I'm like, man, I agree with you. Some people can just remember, and the amount of recipes that you can remember is crazy.
One thing is, and I actually talked to my sister about this this past week, and it might be the same. It's to the point where I can tell my mom's rice from other people's rice.
I agree.
Like I can tell her rice apart from my grandma's, from my aunt's. Like, and I can nail each one. Like, I can taste them and nail them, and I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. I agree with you though. I'm not sure but I know my mom's cooking. Yeah. I know your mom's cooking, and it's probably just they're just so used to doing things a certain way, and they've done it that way for so long. That no, I completely agree that I don't know what it is, but if it's my mom's rice, I know it's my mom's rice or beans or whatever.
I don't know if this is out of bounds to say or anything, but. Because what I'm about to insinuate might not be too nice, but I wonder if cultures with less flavor. Yeah. Because I'm Cape Verdean, you're Cuban. Of course. Yeah. Are you full Cuban?
Full
both
Cuban,
parents?
Yeah.
We cook with flavor. Our food is always bomb and stuff. And I wonder if other cultures that deal with more like potatoes,
I agree,
chicken and stuff, would their children be able to notice the same thing about the cooking? Like, could you tell your mom's baked potato from?
That's a good question, and maybe it's more of like a repetition thing where you eat, regardless of what you eat. We are fortunate, that we've had pretty flavorful food the whole time. Yeah, but it might be just more of like a repetition thing where they just have it so much that it's very unique flavor to them, but. Yeah, man, I love like tasty food. That's like, when it comes to like good Cuban food, and I'm not to brag, but my mom makes delicious food. Yeah. So every time we go out to restaurants, I always talk to my wife, and she's like, "Your mom ruined restaurants for us." because every time we go to a Cuban restaurant now, I try to compare that kind of food with your mom's, and it never stacks up. And I'm like, that's exactly what
There's still food left on the plate?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't even go to Cuban restaurants anymore. I just don't, because it'll never taste as good as my mom. And it's probably just, I don't know if I'm being biased or not, but I always say, like most Cuban restaurants are just not that good.
Yeah.
They're never going to be made with the same love that mom at home, or it's probably the same thing for you.
That's always what's missing, is that love.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I agree.
Yeah. That's the one thing you can't fake.
No, you can. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And it's, it's unique, and it's something that once you don't have it, you realize how much you miss it. Because right now, I miss her cooking so much.
When I for everybody out there that isn't aware, I live in Seattle currently, and we're filming this and recording this in Orlando, Florida, where my parents live, with all my friends are at, and I've been living life. My mom's been cooking. Anything she asks, like, do you want this? I'm like, yes.
I bet you're having a blast.
I might be full.
It doesn't matter.
I might not be hungry.
It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Whatever mom puts on the plate, you eat it. Yeah, I agree.
So I'm in heaven right now. Plus, I don't have to. It gives me a break from like cooking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So just having
you enjoy cooking, huh?
I do.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
And stuff. So I can't complain too much. But it's nice to always have what I can't make, because even though I make rice, even though I make beans, it's not hers.
No.
And stuff. So.
And I don't get me wrong, you're very good. But if you say hers is better, I'm probably gonna have to take your word for that.
Hands down.
I'm gonna have to take your word.
There's
for
just a certain thing about it and stuff.
It's that mom love, man.
Yeah, I honestly, when I head back to Seattle, I might steal her pot, just see if it comes out a little bit better.
Some kind of flavor residue is stuck on it that makes it perfect. Yeah.
Over years of making it.
Yep.
Because she won't throw a pot away.
No. Same. Yeah, my mom still has the same ones that she did 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't move.
So before we begin, as I mentioned, this is the second podcast that we've been doing. And I wanted to mention that you're doing an awesome job so far.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I I'm proud of you for this, man. I think this is big, and I remember when you came up and you said that you wanted to have a podcast, you wanted to have me on. Yeah, I didn't even think twice to do it, because it's always fun to do things out of the ordinary, to do things that are a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
Yes, sir.
And doing these things is not the most comfortable thing, to stand up here on a mic and talk and share your story or whatever it is that that you're going for. So I'm proud of you for doing this, and keep doing it.
Cool.
Keep doing it.
I appreciate that.
Keep having the same energy that you always do, and that'll always shine through. Whatever that is, it's, you can't fake that kind of stuff, and you're just a genuine person. So I'm happy, and man, I'm glad that I'm the second on here, and on to many more. Whenever you want to do this, I'm always down.
Absolutely. And there'll be more.
Yeah.
And it was weird, because yesterday, I was telling you earlier before we started that when we did yesterday, I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
And there were some hiccups in the first episode.
Yeah.
That maybe you will see, maybe you won't.
That's the magic. That's the magic of editing.
So me personally, there were some things that I knew I had to correct first, as a host and stuff, because I felt like I have to go back and listen to the edit, because I haven't listened to what we did, but I felt a little bit more stiff, which is complete change right now. I feel like more like just going with the flow and stuff like that. But I think it was just the nerves of doing it for the first time.
It is. I mean, we've talked forever.
Yeah.
And we've done this, but there's something that's a little bit different about having a mic in your face and lights and these things. But no, I think we're doing a great job so far.
Cool.
Yeah.
And my sister, I was telling you earlier, she did amazing.
Yeah, of course she did.
Compared to me.
Right.
And it was I was like, oh my God, she's just, just going with the flow. She's hitting everything.
Yeah.
She was describing everything beautifully. And I was like, she trying to take my show? I was like, so,
right.
But she did awesome and stuff. And it felt so good, because she was telling me after that she felt so good after it, and that she was excited. And then I I was like, it worked.
That's good.
You know, like she felt good after that. I'll probably ask you how you feel after this. But
Yeah.
like, I was so excited that she felt a certain way about doing this with me.
It is. It's a weird.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know how to explain it, but it is. It's fun. It's it's something a little different, and you're kind of in a different setting. I enjoy it. I like it.
And to everybody out there, this is all a work in progress. Some things might change. Some things might stay the same.
Yeah.
You'll see me turn into a better host. You'll see some of the subjects, things get added. Yeah. You'll always see good guests because everybody that I know is good people. I don't hang around with people that are that are bad. So
I can.
And then one thing that did happen that I did want to share is that same thing how we have these cameras in front of us that are like filming us for the podcast. They're meant for like I was telling you about like highlights and stuff. We went through the whole podcast, recorded everything, and we were so excited to finish. And we were like, yeah, that was awesome. Went back and didn't realize that my phone had like the battery died. Oh no! It was at 66 when I put it in there. By the time we got done, it was dead. And I went and I saw the black screen. I was like, I kept tapping it. Yeah. Like, come on. Come on.
No.
Don't
so
tell
it
me.
didn't get a lot of
No, so we lost the video for yesterday, which is fine because we record the actual podcast on the device I showed you earlier. But I was like, man, there were some good moments. Do you remember I was telling you about how we clap when we need to make an edit? Yeah. Oh, we were clapping. We were clapping. There were some bloopers yesterday that we had. Right. So that's the only thing that I'll miss about yesterday and stuff. But regardless, the recording is still intact. I will get that out as soon as possible. My sister, I feel bad for my sister because she was, when I told her that none of the recordings came through from the video, she thought that the videos were what we were like recording. She didn't realize that the device was recording the audio.
Oh, she thought she lost it?
She thought we lost everything.
No.
And I could see her eyes. She was like, man, I got to sit with this motherfucker again. And I was like, no. It's just the actual podcast. It's just the video that we lost. And
were you able to get some footage with the other phone or no?
Not that I'm aware of, because we only did one phone for at that point. There were some differences between her phone and mine. As far as like the lenses. Yeah. So we chose to only do with one phone and just do landscape. And got both of us. Yeah. But
that's a learning.
Those are moments that you'll never get to see. Yeah. but maybe you'll get to hear at some point.
It's part of the it's part of the experience of learning it.
But I thought it was so cool just going through like the kinks and trying to iron them out and stuff. So we got a much better set up here today, which I appreciate you helping me out with
of course,
and everything.
Man.
So
of course.
But other than that, if you want to get started, let's get this ball rolling.
Let's get it. Let's do it.
So with every podcast that we do, there are some signatures that we do for it. We'll break them up into segments. The first one is going to be your favorite parts. Yeah. So we'll go through some of your favorite parts of some parts of your life. It could be music. It could be an experience. It could be certain things. You gave me a list of them, which I thought were awesome, and we'll go through those together. It's a small list
of the things.
Yeah. So far, we're doing 3.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Stuff, and you nailed all 3 of them. Yeah. And then after that, we'll go through my favorite part of the week, where I'll just talk about something that's impacted me this past week or something that I thought was cool.
Beautiful.
And then lastly, there's some questions that I'll ask from every guest that I'll ask you at the end, and we'll wrap it up.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
And with that, the first part of your favorite parts, and these are some items I just asked you to just give me, and that we would talk about through the podcast. The first one is going to be the outdoors.
Yes.
So, from my experiences with you already, because we've had quite a few experiences. I know that you're a man of you like doing things in the outdoors. You like hiking. You like going out and doing things. I won't get into too much detail because I'll leave them for you. But please, let me know what it is about the outdoors that you love so much.
I think there's a certain peace that comes with when you're out there. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite part about the outdoors is the grounding effect that it has on me. Yeah. It's a chance where you get to go out there and you sort of get to. My favorite part about it is that most of these hikes that you do, whether you go to the Carolinas or anywhere else you go, when you're up on the mountain, your phone doesn't work. So you're completely detached from social media.
Yeah.
You are completely detached from text messages, from most things that occupy us on a day-to-day basis. You're completely detached from those, and you get to sort of ground yourself and have like a real appreciation for like beauty and like the outdoors as what it is. And it's such a simple thing where you just go out there and you hike somewhere, you throw a tent down, and you sleep in a tent at night. But there's something so far detached from what we do on a day-to-day basis that I think that shock of doing something completely different than what I do on a day, which is I work from home, so I sit on a computer all day. Yeah. I thoroughly enjoy video games, so sometimes, I'll jump on and I'll play video games, or we're on our phones, or we're watching a movie, or we're doing whatever it is. There's a device always involved in it. And I think my favorite part about the outdoors is, first, it's a little bit challenging. As you know, we've done a couple hikes. Yeah. So you know how challenging that is.
Don't get it twisted. We'll talk about those.
Yeah. So the challenge of doing the hikes, and it sucks, and a lot of them do sucks, but there's something unique that I enjoy about that, and it's the challenge of like, getting up to that summit, and you're at the top of the mountain, and you get a great view, and you can just sit back and be like, you know what, I did that. Yeah. I went, and I went through all these hills, and I did this elevation change or whatever, and you get up there and you appreciate just those little moments, and it's those little moments that you have throughout the hike or when you're outdoors that I always feel it's a very big reset for me. You get to breathe that clean air, and you're not attached to anything. There's no electronics. There's nothing. It's just you. And most of the time, Cheryl has gone with me quite a few times. You've done it a couple times, and you're just enjoying the company. And you're all in this kind of shitty situation where, like, this is a pretty tough hike or whatever. But you're all enjoying it in your own ways. Yeah. And like at the end of the day,
you're all going through the same shitty experience.
Exactly. And I think that those experiences, whether it's something tough or anything in life, when you go through something like that with somebody, it there's no way you don't bond. Yeah. Over it, because you can always look back and be like, you know what? You remember that time we did that, and that was tough, but damn, we did it. You know, so it's kind of like that camaraderie with the people around you and your friends, and the conversations that you have out there are so. I like to think of them as refreshing. We've gone on tons of hikes and tons of camping trips with our friends, and there's just something about the outdoors that I've loved, my whole life.
Yeah, and I would. If I'm understanding correctly, I would think that that's probably your favorite part. The peace, but also like the bonds you build when you're in the outdoors.
It's at the top. It's that weird, like, this is tiring, but like just look out there real quick, and you can just. I mean, it sounds kind of cheesy or whatever, but I always look at it as there's so much beauty just out there, with these, you're on a mountain range, or you're hiking on a beautiful waterfall or whatever, and it's just like there's so much. I enjoy it, and you're sharing that beauty with the people around you, and the bond that you make with those people, where you're like, we're kind of in a shitty situation, but look how pretty it is, and that's something that's it's like one of those things that no matter how many pictures you see, how many videos you see,
it will never do it justice.
It will never do it justice. Yeah. Whether you're out there on a beautiful scenery with your friends and the people you care about, and you're just enjoying like this moment in time. And I think the main thing about that is, yes, the people around you, it makes it amazing, but you have to be present. You cannot be thinking of the future or the past. You have to be present in that moment when you're there, because that's all you have. You don't have your phone. You just have your people and the experiences that are going on. So I think that's my favorite part. It's that bond you build with those that you go out to hike with, and how present you have to be, how peaceful it is. All of those things, like in general, it's. I love the mountains. They've always called me, and I honestly, I came from Cuba, and I grew up in a very rural part of Cuba, where there was a lot of, almost like a farm. You know, we had cattle, so I've always been outdoors, even when I was little. And when I came to this country, it was actually hard for me to adjust to to the ways here, which was you live in an apartment. You know, you. I remember I telling my dad, I was like, "What do you mean I can't just go out and ride a bike?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, it's dangerous. You can't just do that." So I guess getting back to those days where I would just go outside and be kind of free, that's what reminds me of those moments here. And I think that's why I enjoy the most.
I've never heard you articulate it that way before. I've never known that there was like a kind of like a correlation with that.
Yeah, it reminds me of a little bit of back home, because I grew up in, like, you know, the first few years of my life, we lived, it's pretty rural. You know, we had a pretty old house and there was rivers and stuff, and I was constantly outdoors. I was constantly doing something outdoors. So coming here was a very hard, it was almost like a shock, you know, because, and we lived in Miami. We came to Miami the first few years that we lived in Miami. Imagine going from a farm town in Cuba to Miami with all those lights. It was a very big shock.
It's definitely, like, maybe in other parts of Florida, maybe it would have been an easier adjustment, but you went to like the Mecca.
Exactly.
Miami.
Exactly. So that was already tough in itself. So when, and I, you know, I didn't start like hiking and camping until I was a little bit older, you know, until I was probably 21 years old, where I started to go out and hike. And it wasn't until then when I was like, oh, this is what I like.
That's what I was going to say. The feeling you probably got from doing it for like getting back out there and doing that, this sense of like maybe even like familiarity that you got from it was probably
I knew it.
Insane.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. There's something that when I did it the first time, I was like, okay, this is the shit this feeling that I'm having right now when you're outside and it was the first time I ever did it was the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. Yeah. We hiked that. And when I went out there and I hiked and I got up to that summit, I was like, I distinctly remember while on my way back down, I was like, this is something that I want to continue to chase throughout. Yeah. No matter where I go, but I want to be here. This is where I want to be. It was like I almost found like, oh man, I really enjoy this. Yeah.
I'm gonna pause 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah. So that similarity of being there again and sort of experiencing that was something that I was like, damn, I really want to go back here again. I want to continue to do this. And it was so nice. It was so nice. It was so freeing, like to just be out there and hiking and experiencing. And honestly, it's one of those, like, you know, we haven't done it in a while after COVID, and you know, a bunch of stuff has happened. I haven't been able to go out there as much as I wanted to in the past couple of years, but I'm ready to go. I actually have a trip planned, hopefully pretty soon, with my jiu-jitsu instructor, and we're going to go out there and do it like a weekend hike up in the Carolinas. But if I had a choice to do something, it would always be like, that's what we did for my bachelor party. I took you guys on a pretty treacherous hike up. Did you do that hike?
Yeah. I think I did the first one.
You did the first one, the day hike. The second day we did it was even worse than that one. And it was it was a pretty tough hike, and I'm pretty sure those guys hated me. And then I took them skiing and snowboarding. And for anybody who's never done that for the first time, it's pretty rough, and we did it in Breckenridge. But even like for my bachelor party, I was like, yeah, what I want to do is I want to go hiking. Yeah. I just want to go up.
I had a bomb time. Like I came out for the bachelor party, and granted I was only there for like a day. Yeah.
I appreciate that big time that you actually made it out there for one day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like it was worth it just for that one day.
I know it was.
But we did that hike, and I remember we had a cool ass instructor.
Yeah.
He took us up and everything. He actually, did we bring those beers, or did he bring them?
He brought them.
He brought them, and like we all
ice cold beers.
Yeah, when we got to like whatever I guess you would call what the summit was there, and I remember just looking around, and it looked immaculate, like it was beautiful. Perfect. We got there right at the perfect time, like it was
so perfect. Like sun was almost going down.
Yeah, like it was getting close to sunset, but not quite, and it just made everything look so beautiful.
It was cold outside.
And to like piggyback off what you said, what made it even better was the fact that, like, you take a look at the view, but when you look around you, there's nothing but people that you fucking ride with.
That's my favorite part. Like when you're out there and you're in a situation where it's nice and you're having a good time, and you look around, you're like, oh, these are these are my people. You know, these are my friends, my best friends, the people that I wouldn't want to share this experience with anybody else than my friend. I think that's what makes it more interesting than anything else is those memories that you share with your friends when you're out there on those mountains or whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Anything. It could be anything as long as you do it with the right people. I always believe that's we can be sitting here. These cameras wouldn't be on and we'd be sipping on this and we'd almost be doing the same thing.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And honestly, I'll never forget that. Like even the pictures that I have, like you said, they don't do them justice for what I saw that day.
It doesn't because it's a thing that like, the pictures will do it. Yeah. You'll see, and it's great. I try to take pictures of a lot of things because I want to remember those memories when I go back through them. But they'll never do them. You have to be there. You can show them to somebody and be like, "Oh, this is what we did." But a lot of times, people there's something about just being out there with your people that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and then you have like some. I don't want to say good. You have good experiences, but ones that are weird too.
Yeah.
And in particular, I'm talking about it when the Tennessee hike that we did.
That was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. And to be honest with you, I think we played it off as like this will be a decent hike, and then it ended up being way tougher than I ever thought it would be.
I immediately I like doing hikes. Yeah. I just hate not being prepared for them. Like I like to condition myself and stuff, and I didn't do it for this one. And 20 minutes in, I was like, "Get me out of here."
You're right, and the fact that you after 20 minutes you were saying like this is not gonna, and you made it through. I mean, I wish the listeners would be able to understand. Like we got absolutely poured on.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 minutes into the hike?
Yeah, and about 10 minutes into the hike.
It wasn't no more than that.
Yeah.
And we got there and we were supposed to have a nice hike and go out to the summit, and we got absolutely it was cold.
Yeah.
There were so many times, man, where I wanted to just wait, let's just turn around.
It's weird though because I know a lot of you were the bad part about it was the rain and everything.
Yeah.
I thought that was the most amazing part about it. Because I would have rather been cold and wet than hot and like sweating and like dying and stuff. And I was
remember
like,
you
all
saying
about
that.
it.
I remember you saying that. You were like, the rain doesn't bother me. And for me, it was definitely, I was just shivering, like uncontrollable shivers. And a couple times we stopped, and I was like, I just want somebody to be like, let's just go back. I definitely wasn't going to be the first one to do it.
Yeah.
So
and
I was like,
by that time, I was already in there.
We were too deep.
Yeah.
We were already way too deep.
Yeah.
But it ended, how pretty was that?
It was.
That ending.
Because I don't, and we're not making this up. By the time we got to the summit where we were trying to go, the weather had cleared up. And I think even the skies parted.
It was like almost like a hole in the sky just opened up to be like.
It was like the Red Sea parting and stuff.
Those things, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like those little moments that happen. It's just like you could tell somebody and it's kind of fake. But that was true. That's exactly what happened. It was gloomy as shit until we were maybe 10 minutes from the summit. And we got up to those rocks and almost the sky just opened up. And the sun even came out. We dried up there. You remember that?
We did. And I remember me in particular, I was sitting most of the time when we got to the summit. Yeah. More because with my fear of heights and stuff. Yeah. So I couldn't just stand around anywhere. Yeah. But I just remember while I was sitting, I was taking it in, and it was some of the best views and stuff like that. It is.
It's nice.
And I can't remember what the name of that particular trail that we did was. And just like we mentioned, the skies parted, beautiful weather while we were up there. And then I don't know what happened, but as soon as we started coming back down, it started all over again.
You just reminded me that. For anybody who's listening, if you've ever been, it almost looked like whitewater rafting on our way back. The water is probably up to my shin, almost at my knee on our way back.
And that's
down.
not an exaggeration.
And it was not an exaggeration. It was just coming down like torrential downpour. And at that moment, I was like, I'm just done.
Yeah.
I almost rolled down because I couldn't take it. It was but it made it what it was, right?
Yeah, because like you said, we were all going through it. And everybody was maybe I think 6 or 7 of us. Yeah. No wait, there was 6 of us.
6 of us. Yep. 5 of us. 5 of us.
5 of us.
Yep.
And we were all going through it.
Everybody was going through it, and I'm like, you know what? this sucks, but like I remember like looking around and everybody kind of we gave each other the same look, like we're in this shit together kind of deal, and that was cool. I still remember, and honestly, right now I look back, I'm like, I'd do that shit again.
Yeah, I would too.
100% do it again.
Hey, it's the for any listeners out there that's queasy. It's the first time I took a crap on the trail.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hold it anymore. And
you got to do what you got to do.
And I don't know what it was about. Something before we left told me bring toilet paper.
And you did, right?
I didn't know how and I did, and I used it. And
you know how many times people have probably done that?
Yeah.
And didn't think that way before they went out there?
Yeah, I at least I was prepared.
Yeah.
Audience, just before we move on to Dennis's next favorite part, I do want to address something. At the beginning of the podcast, I did talk about how we did the one yesterday and how there were some kinks, but we experienced a kink on this session. You might have noticed at some point during this podcast, there was some music playing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it stopped if I edit it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that music was hidden, and I had no idea that it was even on.
To be fair, it was set in the mood, and it was a good music.
Yeah.
It almost felt like part of the ambiance.
Yeah.
So maybe that might be something you think about doing on later.
I might have to, because at that point, man, it was the vibes were just hitting.
I agree.
And
I agree.
I don't know what made me think like, what is this noise that I'm hearing? And we forgot that we had Alexa playing the hits for us. But
you know what? Why I didn't say anything, because you had mentioned earlier that you're able to plug your phone into the device and you're able to listen to music. So for some weird reason, I thought maybe he just threw some music on my headphones, like while this was going on, and it just didn't register until you mentioned. I was like, oh my god, that's the music I've been hearing.
No, yeah,
but that's part of it.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'm not gonna change it.
No, don't. So, I want to be like, remember the music in the beginning, and it might not even picked it up. So who knows?
Even if it did, I think we were. It was like just
cruising.
Yeah. It was hitting.
It's all good.
But if you don't hear any new music now and you're just hearing our sorry voices, that's why.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, we'll see if we can match that energy.
Yeah, that energy. Yeah. But for the next part that we have up for you is your second choice was motorsports, which again, knowing you, I can see this being one of your favorite parts.
Yep.
And so just tell us a little bit about what you love so much about motorsports.
So motorsports is something that I've liked for a while. And I remember when I was a young kid in Cuba, and we had some family members that lived in the States, and a couple of them went back to Cuba, and they brought me it was almost like a little cart,
like a go-kart,
but it had pedals.
Okay.
And it had the little wheel, and it was obviously it was probably one of the coolest gifts I'd ever gotten. And I remember driving it up and down the my sidewalk in my house, and I would hear stories of my mom and my dad telling me like you would always like do these like quick turns and you wouldn't fall off the edge of the sidewalk onto the street. And after getting that, I remember my grandfather got an interest in like showing me motorsports. So the first thing I ever saw that had any kind of competitive racing or anything like that was MotoGP. And I remember as a young boy sitting in like my living room with my grandfather, and him, I mean, I remember this like it was yesterday. I remember him telling me, he was like, look at these people, how they're leaning on the bike. And their feet are almost, or their knees and their elbows are almost touching the ground.
Yeah.
You know how MotoGP, when they take the corners, they're kind of leaning. And he would be like, look at the, and he made them seem like superheroes. And at the time I was like blown away by it. And it was almost like something just kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And the older I became, I've always been fascinated by cars. Even when I came here, my dad and I would go to the car shows in Miami Beach Convention Center. They would have all these car shows that, you know, the new manufacturers would show off their things. So I've always liked cars.
Yep.
So I kind of got into just watching cars and the old Fast and the Furious movies. And then eventually I started, obviously the older I got, the more I started to understand. And then I started to get more into like Formula One, and now I'm in this sort of like GT racing kind of deal. But it all stemmed from like a young childhood fascination with cars. And like I was always like, on my free time I would always just like Google or YouTube like car videos. And I don't know if you know this show, but there's an old car show that was called Top Gear.
I didn't watch it, but I'm familiar with it. It was it was like a BBC show.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. It was three
gentlemen.
Three gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yep. James May, Richard Hammond, and Jeremy Clarkson.
If I'm correct, I think that show only ended like recently, like within the past few years.
It did. It ended up. Well, the Top Gear show ended a while back when it was. There was a allegedly Jeremy Clarkson had a big fall off with the producers and slapped him or whatever, and they kind of went off and they did their own thing. They made their own show. It was called The Grand Tour, and it was originally in a Netflix series, I believe. Not Amazon.
Yeah.
Series. So I watched that, and obviously it's a British show, and motorsports, Formula One is huge in Great Britain. So there was a lot of introduction to those kinds of other motorsports, and I was just absolutely fascinated with, as much as I like racing and stuff, I'm fascinated about the driving,
like the technical aspect of it.
Very much so.
Yeah. Like
the technical aspect of driving and sort of what these drivers, how they adjust or adapt to different tracks. And then I started to get into Formula One, and I've always been like a techie guy. Like I don't know as much, but I like to research a lot about like whether it's technologies in aircrafts or those kind of anything that I think I'm really fascinated with humans performing at like an extreme level,
the top level,
whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what it is.
Like on a brief tangent, I think that explains also why you love MMA so much. Like you partake in MMA and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing. Those people that are in there, they're performing at the peak.
Yeah. Professional sports in general to me is fascinating. It doesn't have to be motorsports. I love motorsports, but sports in general. I love playing sports. But there's something about a human doing an athletic, anything athletically.
It is,
but at an extreme level, that's fascinating to me. I appreciate it doesn't matter who it is, men or women, it doesn't matter who it is. If you're performing at a high level, I love that, because I'm like, that person has something that's a little bit different than everybody else.
Yeah.
Because when you start to think about like, you could be good at karting. You can go to a go-kart track and be okay at it. But the level that you need to go from there to an elite athlete or a professional race car driver is so insane. And I think that's what, like, it's fascinating, because that all these people that are in this motorsports or whatever it is, they are at the extreme top of their game. They're the best drivers. They're the best engineers. So going back to like Formula One, it's a sport that it's not just about, the driver or the team. It's almost like a proving ground for technologies that will eventually make their way into the cars that we drive today.
Yeah.
And they are just at the forefront of it. They are the best engineers creating the best kind of technologies, experimenting with different types of materials, because it's a game of tenths. You're talking about 2 or 3 tenths is a very small margin to the average person, but in a racetrack, 3 to 4 tenths is a huge gap.
Yeah.
And the amount of work that is required to improve just 3 tenths is an insane amount of labor. And that labor that occurs in the back end is something that also I find amazing, because it takes a huge effort by everybody in the team, by engineers, strategists, parts, manufacturing. There's so much that encompasses what the success of a team is, that I always like that whole you know, when you like motorsports, you always think about like the development race, or at least when it comes to Formula One, you think about the development of the cars, and that is as much a part as it is being fucking, you know, Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen driving at the best of the best, which they are. But it's also the teams behind them. You can't do it on your own. As much as you'd like to think that you can,
just hop into any vehicle and
you just cannot.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what happens when you compete at the highest level. Everybody is just as good as you. And
I can tell that like you've had a passion for it. Especially this past year, your birthday.
Yeah.
We came down. We went to a track and we did some car racing.
Yeah.
And just watching you go out there like each race and like try to get better each time.
Yeah,
it's impressive and stuff, because some people wouldn't really care about that. I mean, I did it one time and I followed you around and you were like showing me like the lines and stuff to follow and everything. And it was so weird. And I'm positive it's the same thing for you. But me in particular, since I haven't done it before, like I was more cognizant of like everything that's going on. But as you go in the race, I'm assuming this is what everybody goes through, but at some point you hit like, I guess you would call it the zone, where you just block everything out. Like at the beginning, I was so focused on not like crashing, not doing this. And then at some point, not even knowing, you like lock in and you're just going and you're following this and you're following that and you're making sure you can do this. And I'm pretty sure that's something that you probably go through often with it.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps because that was your first time, right?
Yeah.
And you just explained exactly what I feel almost every single time that I go on. And I think that's, I love karting, obviously. But it's that zone that you get into where nothing else matters. Yeah. It's just you and that cart, that silly little rental cart that you get. And you almost like, you go out there and after one or two laps, everything just goes like this. And it's almost like tunnel vision.
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot think of anything else other than, where am I going to brake for the next corner? How did the cart feel when I braked at this point on the last lap? And these are all things that I'm having to process in my head. And to a greater extent, the pro drivers will do this. But that's exactly what happens. Yeah. You're almost like in this, it's like a trance.
It was so weird because at the beginning of getting into the vehicle, I was so worried about like maybe not hitting something right or like crashing. Yeah. And it got to the point where I was so in the zone that when I finally like spun out, I didn't care. And I was like, how do I get back into where I'm going?
You're right back on.
And you get back and you just forget it. Like this car is like coming all the way around and you're just so focused on just getting back in. And one of the things that I loved about that day too is the fact that you were doing well that day.
Yeah.
And to the point where you're getting like some of the high scores that day. And I love the fact that some of the people that were there kept coming after the races and would come up and like and ask you like, yo, how did you do this? How did you do that? And I was like, look at them with this group.
Well, what the thing is when the more you go and the more you compete and sort of based on your lap times that you do, it'll give you a score, like a rating underneath your name. So whenever everybody goes out, you have to look at a board and it'll show your name with your rating score on and if you've been there before. So I've done endurance races and I go quite often, and you know I'm not the slowest guy that goes out there, and especially it's not that I'm that fast. It's most of the time you're going against like average people. Yeah. But I've done pretty well. I've gotten pretty decent times. And my score was pretty high. So you can tell, like, when you go line up, everybody kind of looks at the score and then they'll see one big outlier on the score. And they're like, oh, this person probably has come out here for so long. So it happens quite often where people are like, who's that 3,000 score or whatever? Yeah. And I'm like, it's probably way more money than I like to admit that I've spent here to get that score. but you know, but I always go back. Yeah. But I thoroughly enjoy it, and I'm glad that we have something like. There's another one that's close by. We just found out it's about an hour away. It's in Bushnell, Florida. It's way out there in the boondocks, but it's a really cool track, and it's nice to go to a different track because then you can apply those same skills to like learning a new track and like sort of pushing a little bit of the limit. Like every lap, you're getting faster. So that was kind of nice to do.
Yeah. Plus, it expands your like range and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that. The whole motorsports. I know that's something big in your life, and I appreciate you sharing that with everybody.
Yeah,
For that.
yeah, and I encourage everybody, if you haven't done so yet, there's a series on Netflix that's amazing. It's called Drive to Survive. So I'm sure a lot of people know about it. But if you don't, check it out. It's an incredible series on Netflix that depicts Formula One.
But you obviously get like a positive feeling from like all these things. But that leads me into to your third part. And you labeled it this, and I was curious to find out what you meant by it. But you put anything positive.
Yeah.
And expound on.
So anything positive to me is anything that makes you feel good, whatever that is to somebody, whether it be, gathering with family, talking to friends, going out hiking, anything that brings enjoyment to to a human is always something that I'm like, I always, you, as you get older, I think that a lot of times you start to get a little bit more stressed out, life becomes a little bit more real. Your day to day, everything weighs on you a little bit more. And I think there's a lot of that youth that you miss of like, fuck man, I remember like when we met, like we would go out and the kind of shit that mattered was essentially nothing. It was only about having a good time. Yeah. And I always like to go back to those moments of like positivity, whether it be being around really positive people like yourself or just being around a positive environment is something that's like just makes you feel good. Kind of lets you tingle inside. So when I mean like positivity, it could be something as simple as like a dog video or being around a person that's like checks on you and says, how you doing? You doing okay? You're good. All right. That's all of those things are essential to living like a positive life. And I know that I could do a lot better in a lot of those things. But to me, like that positivity of being around people that are always like uplifting and stuff, that's always good. Because lately I've been trying to, cut back on a lot of like the negative stuff. And it's almost like
I can understand that.
If I don't look at it or I don't entertain that kind of, then maybe it won't affect me as much. And that's obviously easier said than done. But if you just try and shift a little bit of your mindset of like looking at the positives and sort of enjoying those positive moments or whatever, I always think that's kind of like, that's where you thrive.
Is there a particular like feeling or anything that you get from those type of moments, or is there anything that it does for you?
Yeah, like happiness. Like you can feel like it's almost like it's like an energy. That just kind of like you can feel that shit in your gut. I don't know how to explain that or how to tell you, but like when you're in the when we're sitting together or when we go out, I don't mean like you I mean you. You specifically.
Yes.
There's just like a feeling of like it's like a feeling. You feel that shit in your gut. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no,
but that shit, it almost like expands outside of you and it affects everything else that you are around. So that feeling of like that gut feeling of like happiness and like, fuck man, like this feels good. It makes you feel present. And that's harder to do the older you get, I think, for me at least.
I agree with that, and the reason why I asked you that is because, and I hope this is the case with most people, but like you said, I've always been, I don't know if I've always been a type of person that I feel.
Yeah, same.
Like when I'm like sad, when I'm happy, like there's like literal a literal feeling that you get.
It's like a physical thing, right?
And I don't know if it's just that's what you just call it or anything, but there's like elation and stuff, like when you're happy and stuff. There's like a feeling of like you just body is just like vibrating, like some energy is about to like.
I agree.
I don't want to say you're going like Super Saiyan, but it
that's
feels
exactly
like,
what it feels like. There's like you're in a room with like people and you're enjoying each other's company or whatever. That kind of positive, but it's almost like a vibration that this sounds so cheesy, but it's fucking true, man.
Yeah,
it really is. That vibration, it's almost like everybody is kind of in tune.
Yeah,
and everybody's on that same wavelength. Those moments is sort of something that I've been trying to get better at, and being more present in those moments, because I think that as you get older and society and all these other stresses and shit like that, it detaches you a little bit from the normal day to day. So like when I said that about anything positive, is trying to associate or bring as much of those things closer to you, to try and replicate that little feeling or that little tingle that you have inside of you.
I mean, if there's ever a high that you're gonna chase, I would hope it would be something like that.
Of course,
and I think that's the thing. Like you get to that point, but I feel like versus how like some people view things as like, hey, you shouldn't always try to get this because you might be. I feel like chasing something like that is always going to be worth it, because you're going down that line to try to get that feeling. You're almost always trying to do something positive to get it. So if you don't get that feeling, the worst you could do is that you did something good.
Yeah, exactly. So like a good example is the gym. Yeah. And I used to be pretty big into the gym when I was working at like Discovery Co. as a lifeguard back then, and I sort of got away from it a little bit, of like the discipline of going to the gym, and I've it's countless people that have talked about this and have said this kind of shit, but the feeling that you get when you go to the gym and you get out of the gym and you feel that tiredness and that soreness and all that shit, that all translates to like positive outcome, whether it be you're like too tired to like your stress goes down, you become a little bit more mellow, and it's almost like that feeling of like getting out of the gym and being like, you know what, I fucking did that. That little feeling always feels good. So you always try to go after that shit. Yeah. And it could be the gym, or it could be anything that makes you feel that little tingle inside. That always, to me at least, has always been something that I like. And I think that's why I'm a big people person. I'm like you. I feel like the energies in the room. Like you can just feel it, and it almost like it affects you in a weird way.
It could affect you in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah. If you're in the presence of bad energy,
if you're constantly around like negative like energy and stuff,
you feel like that shit. So as good as it is to be very sensitive to positive energy, that you feel good and it feels good, it could also, which in my case is the case, it could also hurt you in a negative way. Yeah. Where when you're around a negative energy, or there's an energy or a negative energy around you, you feel that more. Yeah. Versus somebody who might be a little bit more even keeled, then they'll not feel as much or not feel as low or as high, which is also a great thing. Yeah. But I like to feel
the same thing. I thrive off like positive
energy
and stuff like that. Like, because positive energy is good, and you feel good about it. But I think negative energy might affect somebody even more, because it can pull somebody that might be even keel, like you said, like a little bit further down. It could bring somebody that's positive down. Yeah. And stuff. So like it's good to like keep like good energy around you and stuff. Like
always,
that.
Man. Yeah. And it's easy to forget. It's a lot easier said than done. When you try to do the right thing or the positive thing here and there. And it's a lot easier said than done. But it sucks, because I'm a big believer that like you do things to better yourself, or to surround yourself in a positive energy,
Yeah.
and you always have a good outcome.
Yeah.
I always have a good outcome. When I go to the gym, I always have a good outcome. When I'm disciplined about something, I always have a good outcome. The problem is getting back to those habits of thinking positively or putting yourself in the right situation or doing things in a more disciplined way. I always find it hard that it's harder to get back there, but it's almost like that shit always hits for me. When you do something, whether it's you're disciplined about something or whatever, you always have a good outcome. I always struggle sometimes to get back to those places of like feeling good, but it never fails me. It's almost
when
like
you get there,
when you get there, it never fails me. And I've never been around something that I enjoy or people that I enjoy, and I'm like, that was kind of you leave there refreshed. You leave there with a good attitude. You enjoy, and I think that's like my big. It's like trying to get back there as often as possible. Getting back to that zone, like you call it. It's almost like you're racing. Yeah. You get into that zone where you're like, okay, I feel good. I'm doing these things, and I'm trying to keep a good mindset. And when you do it, you feel good. Yeah. It's amazing.
And the good thing about you mentioning that is that I'm sure there's tons of people that go through the same thing every
100%.
day. I mean, we all, at this point, we're all adults. We're adulting. Yeah. And so for some people, adulting is more difficult than others. So I do think that saying something like that will eventually help somebody out and stuff like that.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you were young, I want you to picture yourself back to maybe when you were around 10, 11 years old. Yeah. Which by that time, you're still a kid, but you're aware, you're very aware of what's around you. You're very aware of adults. Do you think that you being an adult today, is it very much different than what you thought of adults back then? Like, did you think it was going to be this way? Whatever it is that your everyday life or experiences, did you think it was, whether it's going to be this tough or you know what, I enjoy it? Or what are your opinions on that? How far off is it?
I did think it was going to be this tough.
You did?
Yes. Only because, and I don't know if it's the same thing for you, but my parents are immigrants. They weren't born here in America. So there's a different struggle that you see that they go through. And I don't know if this is correct compared to somebody that maybe was like born and raised. I agree. Like a parent that was born and raised here. Like seeing somebody like my parents don't speak like they speak English, but not fluent English. Like I've had to help my mom do like study to take her like citizenship test and stuff like that. So there's certain struggles that they go through, and that I know I have it easier, and at this point in my life, they've done a better job than and stuff. So I knew it was going to be difficult because you see them, and not necessarily struggle. They never showed us a struggle. They know. Like if they ever did, they never showed it to us. Yeah. But the fact that they could come to a different country and make a life and raise 3 kids and stuff, I know that that's difficult. It's not supposed to be easy. No. So no. I didn't take it for granted, and it did let me know that things would be difficult. Honestly, there's some decisions that I wish I had made better decisions
like when I was younger. Else in life.
But that's everybody. You're gonna make life, and it's what you do after that. And if you learned anything, if you just go about and do the same thing after, that's where you're making the real mistake. But I did not think that it was gonna be easy. Yeah. If that answers your question.
No. Yeah, it does. And I don't even know how we got to that topic, but it was just a cool question because I thought about that, and I was like, I want to see what you thought about that.
But it translates into the whole positive vibes thing and anything positive. Yeah. But to piggyback off of something positive, that the next part about this is something I'd like to call my favorite part of the week.
Let's do it.
And when I first came up with this, I was thinking about maybe I should look for something that's positive, something that resonates and like gives people like joy and stuff. Yeah. And I started trying to look some stuff up, and it's very hard to find like positive news
Yeah.
or anything positive.
Yeah.
Like I found a website that was called like positive.com or something like that. And like just trying to filter through something that's actually like, sure, the stuff was positive, but to find something that stands out and is positive, I was like, it was tough to find something. Maybe I'll get better at it.
Yeah.
But I just made up my mind, you know what? I'm just going to talk about something that I like instead.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've been into this because, your team Xbox at the moment.
Yeah.
But there's a game that's been out that's called Helldivers 2.
Okay.
And
talk to me.
Yeah. So I've been playing it. It's really, really, really good. It's a live service game. Or at least has that kind of feeling to it.
What does that mean?
They did it like it's one of those games where kind of like Fortnite. Like you go in, you play multiplayer, and like periodically they have like seasons. They update things and
gotcha.
And, like they continue to like service the game.
First person?
Third person.
Okay.
But you go with teams. You play people. You hell dive and you go and you kill a bunch of bugs and robots.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So just like with Baldur's Gate 3, I've been playing with my brother and our friend Brian, who lives in Seattle, with us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been playing the game. It's been awesome. But so I recommend anybody to actually try the game. It's really good. It's a good time. Coincidentally, Tim the Tatman and Dr. Disrespect recently.
I was just about to tell you that.
And I watched part of the stream and it was epic. Just watching him go.
So I was going to watch that stream, and I don't remember what happened that I couldn't get a chance, but I remember watching a couple clips and I was like, damn, this game looks really cool. And one of the biggest gauges for me, if a game is interesting, is how Doc reacts to it, because I know he's very picky about games and stuff. Yeah. So the fact that he thought was a really cool game was really nice. And I've been meaning enough. It was just the past couple of days that I saw him talk about it and stuff. I saw Tim talk about it, and I kind of wanted to go in to find out a little bit more. But it's only a PlayStation game,
and PC.
PC and
so
PlayStation.
Yeah, if you do have Xbox, the only way you would be able to play at the moment is if you have PC.
Okay.
So that's the only drawback from it. But hopefully in the future, it's a first party. Like a Sony studio made it, so I think that's why it's still exclusive.
This might be a dumb question, but how long ago did Helldivers 1 come out?
If I'm correct, I think it was around 2018 or 15.
Okay, so it wasn't like a super old game.
But it was weird because it was top down originally. Like it was top down view versus this one being third person. So it's like it's been super popular the past month. They've done a really good job with like the content on there. Yeah. But the thing that stood out to me, and I watched a video on this yesterday. There's a gentleman that's out there, and I guess he put in like 200 hours into the game.
Oh my
and he's
God.
like, I think rank 50, which I think is the highest rank in the game. And he's basically doing have you ever heard of Let Me Solo Her?
No.
It's a guy. There's a game called Elden Ring that came out.
I know that game
about 2 years ago, and there's a guy that got so good at it that he just goes around and just helps people with the game. So there's like a specific boss in the game. I think her name is Melania or Melina, and she's popular for being like difficult.
Yeah.
And so he made an account, and he literally like people, because in the game I'm assuming that you can like summon people to like help you, or like put a beacon and say, hey, I need help. Yeah. And he answers the call, and he shows up with his character is literally dressed in like a pair of underwear and like a wicker basket on his head. And he just goes around and he beats the boss for people. So people that can't get past the boss, he'll go in and beat them. And he's done it like thousands of times. And
humans at elite levels.
Yeah,
there you go.
And that's all he does. He comes in, he whoops her butt and like and dips.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So in this case, there's a gentleman. I think his gamer tag is like Asatsu. And he plays Helldivers, and he's level 50 which I think is the top rank. And he's been doing the same thing. Part of the game is that, say, because me playing it, you can do it with one or two people, but it's meant to be played by 4 like people all together. And
nice.
And I think they set the difficulty that way because me and my brother tried doing an operation, and we couldn't get past it with just the two of us. As you add more people, it's more doable. So I don't think they change the difficulty depending. I think they want you to have 4 people.
4 people.
So for those people that, try to play and don't have it, they have something called the SOS beacon that you can throw out there.
And so anybody, a random person can come and help you?
What it'll do is that when people go to look for maps to join, it'll like show like a beacon, and that it's basically somebody asking for help. So this guy goes and same thing like let me solo her.
Yeah.
He'll go on and he'll just look for the beacons.
Let me solo her?
Yeah, let me solo her, which means he'll go in here and like tear her up.
I love that.
So he'll go in and he'll look for the beacons, and he'll go in and he'll help those people.
Yeah.
And he comes in, he's like level 50. He's got all the stratagems that he can use and everything, and he helps people like crush it, and stuff like that, and get past like certain things.
That kind of stuff, I love that shit, man. I love that shit because they just have like people have so much time in their hand to get good at like random shit, and they just get like really good at it, whether it be Super Smash Bros or anything like that. But that requires so much time and skill and dedication to do that shit. That's crazy that he's now going on and like helping other people do it.
And he's like popular now. Yeah. To the point where like he's made like he's being talked about, like he's popping on Reddit, like people are talking about him in like YouTube videos and stuff like that. And he basically some guy just going around just like doing good deeds. Like
that's amazing.
Yeah. And I think that's so crazy that like, and obviously I was looking for something positive, but what's more positive than somebody who's going out there and just helping people get past stuff that they can't get past?
I mean, the fact that there is somebody that you can even do that is crazy in the game. Yeah. To be honest, is somebody can just come out and help other people out. But with that shit, there's a bunch of people who do that on Reddit threads that whether it be like different techniques or different things, that's all they do. They just go out there and they help people with video games or recording or anything like that. I always like that shit, man. I think it's Let Me Solo Her. I like that name too.
Yeah, I think it's so crazy that people can just go out there and just do something like that, and that especially being me and you gamers and stuff, knowing that there's people out there doing the good deed.
I love it. It's good. It's good, especially when you go online. Like something similar to that is in sim racing. It's a pretty big community, and one of the most important things about sim racing is like car setups. Different tracks require different setups, and when I mean setup, I mean like essentially the whole setup of the car. So like mechanically, how the car handles, or whether the ride height, or these things affect the way you drive it. And there's people out there that spend hours on hours on hours and hours on videos showing you exactly how to get up to speed, and then they have it for every level, right? For beginners who are just entering the game, to like intermediates who are trying to get better, or like really good people who are trying to make it onto like an esports team or whatever. And they just go on there and they put all these information out, and I use them all the time. I mean, most of the stuff that I know today is because of people like that online, just helping out a community for no reason. They just help out. They just put information out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
To everybody out there, remember, not all heroes wear capes.
No.
Well, in this case, yes, because in Helldivers, they do make you get a cape. So in this case, yes, but in real life, that's not always the case. But heroes do exist. But yeah, that was the favorite part of the week. I just thought that was such a cool story.
I love that.
So the last part of the show that we'll go into is going to be my favorite questions. These are questions that I like to ask people and everybody that comes onto the podcast. Okay. First one's going to be a very loaded question because it's going to be technically 5 different responses. But you're aware how we have, the 5 senses. Yeah. And usually when I ask this question, people will think, oh, I'm asking them for their favorite out of it. But what I'm asking you is going to be, what's your favorite out of each? Okay. So there's no particular order that you have to go. Just start winging them. Okay. And we'll count down all the ones that you give. Okay. So just pick a particular sense, and what's your favorite part of it?
So like touch, sight, like that?
Touch, sight, smell, sound, and taste. Okay. So for example, what would be your favorite touch?
Touch. This is going to sound really weird.
It can be as weird as what my sister told me yesterday. So,
okay. One thing I love is getting licked by my cat. Like the feeling of their...
It's distinct because their tongues has like some type of like bristle type thing.
Yes, it's like that weird texture.
It's rough as fuck.
It is very rough, but there's something like soothing about when he licks you that I really
that
like.
You don't stop them and...
Yeah, I don't. And there's another one that I really like. And this is from woodworking. Whenever you sand something down, a piece of wood or anything, you technically, like, you shouldn't wear gloves when you're woodworking because you can feel all the feeling of like rubbing down your hand on a piece of wood, and you can feel all the tiny little imperfections, and then like kind of working that out. Like, okay, I can feel there's a little knot right here. You sand it down, and then you go over it again, and that very precise sensation that you get in your fingertips whenever you're running your hand through like a piece of wood that's being sanded, or you're trying to find an imperfection to fix it. I like that a lot too.
That's awesome.
Now that I think about it,
I would have never thought to think about something like that. It reminds me of like, and like having worked in like hospitality and like housekeeping and stuff. You know, of course you want to wear gloves when you clean, but I would always take my gloves off because that's how I'd know like a surface was like clean, because you could feel.
Isn't that crazy how sensitive your fingertips are? Like how much information we can just gather from your fingertips. Like you can feel all the little imperfections on those things. So that's definitely one of my favorite ones. I love doing that. Like that's sanding something down, and you can feel it. Or doing this too. This is a cool one. Whenever you put two pieces of wood and they're perfectly aligned, and you can go like this, and you can put your finger right in between them and feel that perfect alignment in them. That feels amazing.
That's awesome.
So for touch, for sight, it's got to be like the mountains, like a deep valley somewhere out in the West Coast, and like, you know, somewhere like Lake Tahoe or what's this other big place that we went to? Sequoia. Something like that. Something out like where you can really see the power of Mother Nature. Like, holy shit. Like, you know, this thing was created over hundreds and hundreds of years of like rocks formation. Anything like that that lets me see the age of something or the process of something. Yeah. That's always fascinating to me. So whether it's like that big ass tree in Sequoia, called General Sherman, when I saw that, you immediately think back that tree has been there for 2,300 years. Think about that. That amount of time, seeing that and being like, this shit was here through so much. I always enjoy the sight of something that's been aged, or something that's like naturally made. I always like those things. So for sight, it's probably be like the mountains or anything like that. That's like, wow, this has been here for a while.
I had a feeling that might be one of them, just based off the conversation about the outdoors. Yeah, and I 100% agree.
Yeah. Smell. I think I love colognes. So my favorite scent would probably have to be the Chanel Blue cologne. I love that. It's probably one of my favorite scents ever.
What is it about it that you like?
So it's got okay, that's it. Okay, there we go. So now we're digging deeper. So what about that scent that I like?
Because the only reason I asked too is because I'm not too fond of musky type of colognes. I'm more like lighter. So I just wanted to know what.
So anything that has more of like a wood scent to it, whether it be like a woodsy, citrusy smell, that's what I like. Anything that has an old wood smell, I love. Even the smell of like natural wood. Yeah. Like if you get a piece of pine or anything like that, and you just smell like which that's a pretty cool thing. I don't know if it's pine or cedar. I think it might be cedar. If you put cedar on your baseboards or anywhere around your house, the natural scent of cedar is a bug repellent. So that's a pretty cool thing. A lot of people use that in a lot of houses.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a natural bug. They just don't like the smell of it. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, but that's just something I heard. So anything that's got a very wood smell to it, I like, and I think that's why I like that scent. So like a citrusy, woodsy smell.
I'll let you go off with your next two, but something I just wanted to point it out, and like it's something that I realized too when I was writing because this is one of the blog posts that I have on the blog.
Yeah.
And I was writing it, and I talk about it in the blog post, but I realized that a lot of my favorite things about my senses have to do with like water.
Yeah.
And it's weird that some of yours have to do like with your
Wood.
passion for the outdoors. It's weird how when you put all this stuff together, how they correlate.
It's true. Yeah. And then, you know, you see that, you know, people who are big into the beach, their candles are going to be more beachy smells, that sand or whatever, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's cool how different people have different variety of scents, whether it's water or anything like that. So that's pretty cool. This is gonna sound really weird. Have you ever
at this point, I haven't heard anything that it's supposed to be weird.
Yeah.
My sister touched yesterday.
Yeah.
And you'll probably hear it when it comes out. Hers was lips.
Really?
Yeah. So she went to a whole tangent about lips and stuff like that. So nothing's out of bounds. So
yeah, and it's weird how everybody has a different.
Yeah.
You know what I really like? This is something that I've always loved. The taste of like condensed milk.
I have tried that before.
That shit is amazing.
Yeah.
I'll just grab a whole can of condensed milk. I'll just poke 2 holes on it. And every once in a while, I'll just take it in the fridge and just knock it back. And then just take a little bit of that thick, like sweet condensed milk. It's like a jolt of energy that I get because it's so sweet and soft. I love that.
Yeah.
It's probably one of my favorite tastes. And it's not that I like it, and I do like it in other things. But I don't like the other things because it has condensed milk. I just like condensed milk alone.
Yeah.
Like, period.
It has a distinct like taste to it.
It does.
And it's weird because you get that creaminess like from the milk and then the sweetness from whatever they put in there.
Whatever they do, yeah.
But it's distinct.
It's
like,
very.
There's nothing that tastes like it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I like those tastes too. Something that's very distinct.
You want to know something that my sister told me to do this, and it's because her husband does it, and I'm assuming it might be popular in Jamaica because he's from Jamaica. But when he makes tea in the morning, he puts condensed milk instead of like sugar and milk. He put I don't know if he still does it, but
like a sweetener, like a natural sweetener.
And I remember trying it a few times.
It was good.
And it was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good. You know what else is really good? Condensed milk and like either Coke.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing. Just put a little Coke, grab the condensed milk, and then just kind of stir it up. It's so good.
Damn.
I suggest anybody you won't
be disappointed.
Yeah, you will not be disappointed.
I might have to give that a shot.
Give it a shot. And then my last one, what was it?
It's going to be sound.
Oh, sound. Correct. I just did taste. Sound. It's got to be the sound of a car.
Nice.
Any car.
Yeah.
Any race car. Whether it be, you know what? I'll go as far. I'll be more detailed. Anything that's turbocharged, the whistling of a turbo inside a car and the backfiring of a car that it makes when it's turbocharged is something that I've always like. I'll be outside and I'll be talking to Cheryl or whatever, and I'll hear a car come by. I don't know. It's like I get like there's something inside of me.
Your ears perk up and you're like,
yes, you're like, oh shit, what was that? So anything like that I hear is amazing. Like whenever I go to the racetrack, and I just went to the Rolex 24 Hours, and there's a car there that's a Cadillac. It's called the Cadillac V Series, and it has a naturally aspirated V8. The fucking thing, dude, it's insane because you think you ever been to Daytona Speedway?
No, I've passed by it a few times, but I haven't been
huge,
to
right?
it.
Obviously, it's fucking huge.
Yeah.
The stands are gigantic. Like it fits a lot of people, and it has a whole infield section and all that. And when we went to the Rolex 24 Hours, we started the race up in the grandstands. And no matter how far you were from these cars, you can almost feel the fucking engine vibration in your chest because it was so loud. And that V8 rumbling of that Cadillac was one of the nicest sounding engines I've ever heard in my life, honestly. And the crazy part is, you're talking about a 24-hour race. This thing is going on for literally 24 hours at all times.
Yeah,
you knew exactly where that car was at all times. Like when that thing passed by, it didn't matter if you weren't looking at it. You're like, that's the Cadillac.
Yeah.
Everything else was kind of muffled, and there's a lot of different cars and different sounds. That one was very specific. So for sound, it's definitely got to be cars.
That's
Anything
awesome.
has to do with motorsports.
And I think that's cool that I think most cars, that sometimes you can tell the difference between them, and like
Yeah.
like how we were talking about telling like different people's races.
Yeah.
You can tell different cars as
Yeah, you can.
engine
I mean,
noises and
I probably can't tell the difference, but I would be able to tell the difference between like a Lamborghini
Mhm.
and mostly other cars. They just have a very distinct.
Yeah.
Not all the Lamborghinis, but
Mhm.
a normal Lamborghini, they have a very distinct sound
Yeah.
to them, or a Ferrari, and they do. The more you're around them and you hear them, you'll realize that they all sound a little bit different. And it's crazy because to most people it sounds all muffled, but that would be like asking, I don't know, Cheryl about would she know the difference between two makeup brands. Yeah, she would 100%. That's what you do every day. If you're passionate about something, you'll be able to tell the very minute subtleties of whatever you're passionate about that most people don't really know
That's
about.
awesome.
Yep.
And then I think that's all 5.
That's it.
You hit them.
I hit them all.
Knocked them out of the park.
We did this.
One last question that I did want to ask, and it's the second part of my favorite questions, and it's something that I used to ask people in interviews before I hired them and stuff, and I liked it so much that I kept asking. So now I'm asking you. Not that I'm trying to give you a job, you never know.
Hey.
But what's something that you've done recently that you're proud of? And if not something recently, just something in general.
Yeah. Going back to the gym. I'm very proud of that. And I think that I'm not only proud for myself, but I'm proud of Cheryl as well.
Yeah.
So I think she's been a huge motivation for me. We both decided that it was time to go back to the gym, and we wanted to do something that's difficult because that sort of builds a little bit of character. And we've been holding each other incredibly accountable for going as much as we do. We even talked about going after this podcast to the gym. I don't know if she's up for it, but we'll see. But we've been going for about 3.5, almost 4 weeks now. And there's been times where, you know, she'll hit me up and I'll get out of work here and I'll go lay down for a second. I feel so exhausted where I don't want to go. But she'll come in and, you know, hey, I'll get ready. You still want to go? And we've been holding each other accountable for that. And we've made it almost every day. Even the other day, I did a whole Muay Thai class. And then after that, I met her up at the gym to do that. So we've been working out together for almost 4 weeks now. And the fact that we've been able to stay consistent and we've been holding each other accountable is something I'm definitely proud of. Not only for me, but for her, because she's also done a great job of going and, you know, it's tough as shit. You know, she works all the way by SeaWorld and then she has to drive all the way through traffic to get home to then come here, change real quick, and then go lift weights at the gym. It's not the most appealing thing, but like we talked about earlier, every time we do it, when we finish, we always feel better. Yeah, it's that initial, you know, hump of getting there that I'm proud of myself and her for overcoming that and continuing. And we'll see how long we can do it, but I'm definitely in a much better, physically better state than I was 3.5 weeks ago, for sure.
No, and I applaud that because from my experiences too, the hard part is always getting started. Like, you know, in the past couple months, I've started trying to do the same thing too. And it's once you go, it's always hard doing that first part. And I applaud Cheryl too, because in my case, it's a little bit easier because I work remote. So as soon as I get done with work, I can just go straight to the gym.
I agree.
Like you said, most people wouldn't think to like get done with work, drive home, get ready, and then drive and leave just to go to the gym. And that takes more dedication doing that. But same thing. I've always found that as you go in, it's easier to keep it moving, like keep it going.
100%.
And then it gets to the point where you get upset at yourself for not going.
I just texted her that. Yeah. I said, "Oh, I'm pissed." Not that I'm pissed that we're doing this. I love doing this.
I mean, you can tell me how you really.
No, I do. Yeah. But I was like, you know, we went yesterday, and I felt really good yesterday. I felt strong, and I was like, yeah, I'm a little upset that I didn't go today. Not that I was upset, but that feeling of like, fuck, you know, I wanted to go. Yeah. was nice. I like that feeling of like, you know, being like, hey, I want to go, because you're right. That first week was terrible. Yeah. I was sore. I didn't feel as strong as I normally do. And going back and getting over that initial hump of like, that soreness and that shit falls in the second week, you're like, most of the time you drop out. You're like, all right, I'll take a couple. And then you just never, but we stuck through it. You know, we stuck through it and we dug in and, you know, we've been going consistently for at least 3 days a week. Sometimes we can get 4 in if we can, depending on how we are. Cause you know, we go out and do other things, but you know, I'm sometimes I don't take as much time to be proud of myself for a lot of things. I'm pretty critical of myself a lot of the times, but this one I'm proud of because I think it's been a good effort from both of us. Yeah. And she's helped me a lot, and I'd like to think that I've been encouraging to her because sometimes I'll text her and be like, "Hey, we're going today, right?" So that's definitely been something that I'm pretty proud of.
I think that's
so
amazing.
Far.
I'm proud of you guys too. So
I appreciate it.
Good job.
Thank you.
So with that being said, and I kind of want to ask everybody that I do this with after, but how do you feel?
I feel great, man. I had a really good time. I think we talked about a lot of really interesting stuff. We went from motorsports to outdoors to video games to sports to everything. It was way easier than I thought it would.
Yeah.
But not because we don't have good conversations, because it was just so different. But I think after that initial kind of get over it and you start to do, well, you become better at things that you practice at. But I loved it. Anytime you want to do it again, I'm so down.
I'm down.
I loved it.
I'm glad to have you again. The only reason I asked too is because same thing, like when my sister got done, she told me how like excited and how good she felt after. And
I feel the same.
It's weird because you like me in particular, like having these ideas in my head and like actually seeing it like happen, and like the goal is to make you feel good.
Yeah, you did a great job.
And like I hope that's everybody that sits next to me and does this with me feels that way, and I hope that translates to the people that are listening to it and they feel good about it too. Like I hope that people that, you know, how you were saying this might sound weird, I hope there's other people that think that
I'm sure there
like things sound weird and would be like, oh, I can actually express this and
relate to that. And I think that's one of the things that anybody who comes on your podcast or any of that is just be real, because you can't fake what you are. You know, if you're real, that's everything will come out, and you can see that kind of things through the audio or through the visual, whatever. But yeah, man, I think you did a great job for your second time.
Thank you.
I applaud you.
Yeah.
You did a fantastic job. It never felt awkward. The questions were on point. So, and
I mean, I have a habit of making people feel awkward. So,
this is only your second one, and you're only going to get better from now. So I'm excited to see what this journey for you holds and where you go. I know where you'll go. You'll go far.
Thank you.
And anytime you need me and to help you out with this, man, I'm always down. I'm always down
cool.
to come and help
appreciate
talk to you
that
for sure.
Is there anything that you want to say to the audience? Anything you want to promote? Say anything before we sign off?
Nope. No promoting as of right now, but just everybody, you know, consistency is something that everybody, I think, should practice. And I know that it sounds so cliche, and I know you hear this shit all the time from people online, and I'm not trying to be one of those guys, but if you have a little bit of discipline, it can go so far. Yeah. And you don't know it until you do it. Until you're disciplined about anything in life, whatever it is, whether it's doing the dishes every day or making your bed every day or any of those things, all of those things will help out. So to anybody out there listening, just start small. Any little thing.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. Baby steps will get you there. And it sounds so cliche, but maybe somebody listens to this and that's something helpful for them. And I hope that, you know, everybody, like you said, this is something that you do to bring a positive light and a positive vibe to everybody. And the main thing that I hope that everybody gets out of this is, whether you're listening to this on your way to work or anything, just that it just gives you a little bit of a better day after this. And that's all.
That if we can get that even out of one person, then it was
out of one person, you made a change to somebody. I agree.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Thank
I love you.
Yes, sir. Love you too.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.